You are not waiting for your big moment. Part of it has already happened, and the reason you cannot fully feel it may be more important than the win itself. Chosen one, look carefully at the person you have become when nobody was applauding. Look at the decision you made without certainty. Look at the boundary you kept when loneliness tried to negotiate with you. Look at the old doorway that opened again, and for once, you did not walk through it. You keep calling those things small. You tell yourself they do not count because nobody announced them. But they are evidence. They show that something inside you no longer responds the way it once did. Maybe you stopped explaining yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you. Maybe you stopped chasing a conversation that had already answered you through silence. Maybe you finally let a door close without begging it to reopen. And I want to be precise about what I am not going to do here. I am not going to promise you money on a certain date. I am not going to invent a prophecy about who is about to call. I want to show you something you can examine in your own life. Something real enough to test. Something strong enough to challenge the story that nothing has changed. Before we finish, you are going to understand 3 things. First, how to identify the massive win you may already be standing on. Second, why your mind can remain loyal to an expired version of reality even after your behavior has changed. And third, what happens when the next level does not need a more worthy version of you, but a clearer one. Because there is a strange moment in every real transformation. The new person has already made the decision. The old identity is still writing the interpretation. That is where many people lose sight of themselves. They keep judging a new life through the emotional evidence of an old season. They feel unfinished, so they assume nothing meaningful has happened. But feelings are not always the best measurement. Behavior often tells the truth first. Think about the last moment when life offered you a familiar pattern. Maybe it was a message you wanted to answer immediately. Maybe it was an invitation that would have cost your peace. Maybe it was the urge to abandon yourself just to make uncertainty stop. You felt the pull, but you did something different. That moment matters, not because it was dramatic, because it revealed capacity. The old version of you may have needed approval before moving. You moved without it. The old version may have needed immediate reassurance. You survived without it. The old version may have confused intensity with love, urgency with purpose, and fear with intuition. You are beginning to separate them. Here is the first breakthrough. Your feelings may still live in yesterday, but your decisions do not have to. So stop asking only, "Do I feel transformed?" Ask a sharper question. What am I doing now that the old version of me could not do consistently? That question gives you evidence your mood cannot erase. And if one answer came to mind, do not dismiss it. Name it, hold it, let it count. If you want to mark this moment, write, "I see the evidence." Because there is one category of evidence more reliable than motivation, and most people never count it. That is where we go next. There is a reason people miss the biggest changes in their own lives. They are trained to count only what can be displayed. Money in the account, a new title, a relationship status, a visible opportunity. Those things matter, but they are only one kind of victory. Chosen one. There is another kind that often appears first. I call it the victory blind spot. It happens when you search for visible proof while ignoring structural change. Visible victories change what you have. Structural victories change what you can keep. That distinction can explain why your life looks unfinished while your foundation is already becoming unrecognizable. Think about what structural change looks like. You pause before reacting. You notice manipulation sooner. You stop confusing chemistry with compatibility. You can hear disappointment without turning it into self-rejection. You can leave a conversation without spending hours rewriting every sentence in your head. None of that makes a loud entrance. But those changes alter what your future can hold. A person without boundaries can receive a beautiful opportunity and still destroy their peace trying to keep it. A person without self-trust can receive love and still abandon themselves inside it. A person ruled by panic can receive money and still make decisions from fear. The container matters as much as the arrival. Picture one ordinary night. Your phone is in your hand. There is a message you could send, a profile you could check, a person you could chase. For one more explanation, the old impulse is still there. Your thumb almost moves. Then something in you says, enough. You put the phone down. Nobody applauds. Nothing flashes across the sky. Your bank balance does not change. But a pattern that once owned your attention has just lost a piece of its authority. That counts. It may matter more than the result you hoped would prove you had changed. The same thing happens when you stop over-explaining a boundary. It happens when you rest without earning the right to rest. It happens when you hear no and do not turn it into a verdict on your worth. It happens when someone withdraws attention and you refuse to perform for its return. These are not consolation prizes. They are infrastructure. Infrastructure is rarely exciting while it is being built, yet everything visible depends on it. A bridge is trusted because of what sits beneath the surface. Your life works the same way. What you can sustain tomorrow is being decided by what you no longer tolerate today. So here is a question worth sitting with. What have you stopped doing that once felt impossible to stop? Do not answer with what sounds impressive. Answer with what is true. Maybe you stopped begging. Maybe you stopped returning. If you are still listening, you may already know the exact moment I mean. It was probably small from the outside. Inside, it was a line in the ground. You did not become cold. You became harder to move away from yourself. That is a structural victory, and it changes the kind of life you can carry without losing yourself inside it. If this gives language to something you have been minimizing, right, that counts too. Let the statement correct the measurement, because recognizing the win creates a second problem. Why does something this important still fail to feel as large as it actually is? The answer begins with a delay inside identity itself. The answer is not that you failed to transform. The answer may be that your identity is late. Chosen one. Behavior can change before self-perception changes. A boundary can become stronger while your emotions still expect punishment. A decision can become wiser while your body still braces for the old consequence. That is why peace can feel suspicious after chaos. You enter a quiet season, and part of you starts searching for the hidden problem. You make a clean decision, then ask whether you ruined everything. The reaction feels current, but its instructions may be old. This is identity lag. It is the space between what you have learned to do and what you have fully learned to believe about yourself. It does not mean every fear is false. It does not mean every decision is right. It means your first emotional reaction is not always the final authority on what has changed. The old pattern had years to train you. So when you begin living differently, part of you may still reach for yesterday's map. The mistake is assuming that reaching for the old map means you are back in the old place. It does not. A reflex is not a residence. A memory is not a command. Fear can speak without receiving your obedience. This is where evidence becomes more important than the emotion trying to erase it. Look at the last time you were triggered. Did you recover faster? Did you wait before responding? Did you choose silence instead of performing? Did you protect time that the old version of you would have surrendered? Those are measurements. They show movement even when part of you still whispers that nothing is safe. Here is the reframe I want you to keep. You are not required to feel completely new before acting from what you have learned. You can be uncertain and still choose well. You can feel the old pull and still refuse the old pattern. Stop asking only, do I feel transformed today? Ask, what evidence would the new version of me count? Maybe you walked away sooner. Maybe you finished something important before looking for approval. Maybe you let someone misunderstand you without chasing them. Now imagine beginning a morning from that measurement. You wake up, and instead of checking whether life has rewarded you yet, you check what is already becoming stable inside you. You notice that panic is no longer making every decision. That is not pretending everything is solved. It is learning to measure the present with present evidence. The old self asks, has it happened yet? The emerging self asks, what am I already doing differently? One question depends on external confirmation. The other reveals capacity you have already built. Your next visible result will still ask something from you. Better relationships need boundaries. Larger opportunities need discernment. If your structure has changed, you are not empty-handed while the visible part catches up. There is another victory hidden inside this. You may have stopped needing something that once controlled you. Maybe approval lost its grip. Maybe chaos stopped feeling exciting. Maybe being chosen by the wrong person stopped feeling better than choosing yourself. When a need loses its power to command you, your future options change. Do not rush past that loss of dependency. It may be a clear sign that your identity is already moving, even if your emotions have not fully updated the story. Next, we need to look at what happens when the win is not something you gained, but someone you finally stopped being. You may be underestimating your progress because you keep looking for what you gained, but some of the biggest victories in your life are revealed by what no longer fits you. Chosen one, there are rooms you once begged to enter that would feel too small now. There are conversations you once chased that would exhaust you now. There are patterns you once called love that your nervous system now recognizes as a cost. That change can feel like loss at first. You stop enjoying what used to distract you. You become less available for chaos. You notice disrespect sooner. You hear an old excuse and something in you no longer wants to negotiate with it. Nothing dramatic happens outside, but your compatibility with the old life begins to disappear. This is where many people become confused. They think they are becoming difficult. They think they are losing patience. They wonder why certain people, places, and habits no longer feel the same. But sometimes you did not lose your tolerance. You outgrew the price you used to pay. The old version of you could remain in a room that required self-betrayal because belonging felt more important than peace. The old version could call anxiety, chemistry, call urgency, purpose, and call being needed love. But once you begin to see the cost clearly, you cannot return with the same innocence. That is why subtraction can be a victory. You stop answering every message. You stop explaining every boundary. You stop rescuing people from consequences they keep choosing. You stop offering unlimited access to anyone who gives you temporary attention. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming harder to separate from yourself. And that matters because every future blessing needs a structure that can hold it. A healthy relationship cannot remain healthy if you still abandon yourself to keep it. A better opportunity cannot stay peaceful if you carry desperation into every decision. More responsibility will not feel like freedom if you still believe your worth depends on proving yourself. So look again at what has fallen away. Some things did not leave because you failed. Some things became incompatible with the person you were becoming. The win may be hidden in that incompatibility. You are no longer available for every version of life that once had access to you. What once felt familiar can now feel heavy because familiarity is no longer enough to make something right for you. If you can feel the truth of that, mark it in your own words. I don't go back. Not because the past was meaningless, because you finally understand what returning would cost. But there is another layer here, and this is where the story becomes more interesting. Over the past few decades, researchers have learned something important about the way different parts of the human brain cooperate during attention, creativity, and decision-making. I am going to return to that later, because it may help explain why a person can change deeply and still struggle to experience that change as clarity. For now, hold one question. What if the part of you that cannot see the win clearly is not the same part of you that created it? This is where people often make the decision that costs them the next season. They change the input, but they expect the result to change at the same speed. When it does not, they assume the change was pointless. Chosen one, that assumption can send you back toward the very pattern you already outgrew. There is a name for this gap, the SUCCSS lag. It is the distance between a changed identity and the visible consequences that changed identity can eventually produce. A new decision happens first. Repetition comes next. Your environment begins responding after that. The result you can point to often arrives last. Think about a boundary. You set it today, but a healthy relationship pattern does not appear tomorrow morning. Think about learning a skill. You practice today, but the career result needs repetition before anyone can see it. You save money this week, but financial stability is built through accumulated choices, not one dramatic afternoon. The same principle applies to clarity. One good decision does not erase years of reacting from fear. One peaceful morning does not mean anxiety will never return. But every repeated input changes what becomes more likely next. This is why the lag can be dangerous. The new cause is operating while the old evidence is still visible. And if you do not understand that, you can misread old evidence as proof that your new direction is failing. You can return to the message you stopped answering. You can abandon the habit that had barely started taking root. You can lower the standard because the reward did not arrive quickly enough. But I want to make an important distinction. This is not an excuse to wait forever while changing nothing. It is not a spiritual way of pretending that every delay means success is secretly coming. If your behavior remains exactly the same, there is no reason to call it a success lag. The lag only matters when the input has changed. That is the test. Are your decisions different? Are your boundaries different? Are your daily actions becoming different? Are you responding to pressure differently? If the answer is yes, then the visible world may need time to reflect what your repeated choices are building. This is why your bank account, relationship status, or job title cannot be the only scoreboard. Those things matter, but they are downstream. The first evidence appears upstream, where choices are made before outcomes can be seen. So, look at your own life. What input has changed? Maybe you are finally finishing what you start. Maybe you are asking better questions before saying yes. Maybe you are spending less time proving yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. Maybe you are choosing one useful action instead of 10 anxious ones. If that is true for you, mark it. My input has changed. Not as a promise that everything you want is guaranteed, as recognition that the cause is no longer identical to the one that produced your old results. And yet changed inputs do not solve everything. There is a deeper problem that can remain after the boundary is set, after the old door is closed, and after the new behavior begins. You can leave the old room and still carry the old receiver with you. That is the missing piece we need to uncover next. You can make the right decision and still struggle to use it. You can leave the old pattern and still feel mentally scattered. You can know what matters and still sit down to act with a foggy mind. Chosen one, this is where many people turn a practical struggle into a verdict about their character. They call themselves lazy. They assume they lack discipline. Some decide they are not spiritual enough, focused enough, or worthy enough. But those explanations can be too simple. There are at least 3 layers involved in change: identity, attention, and action. Identity answers who you believe you are. Attention decides what your mind can hold long enough to work with. Action turns that clarity into behavior. One layer can improve before the others catch up. That is why a person can become stronger in boundaries and still struggle to focus on the opportunity those boundaries created. I call this the OLD receiver. The name does not mean your brain is broken. It means you may still be processing a new situation through habits of attention formed in an older one. Think about how often this happens. You finally have time to work, but you drift toward distraction. You know the next useful step, but your mind keeps reopening old problems. The temptation is to turn all of this into shame. Do not. Shame is a poor diagnostic tool. What matters is separating the problem clearly. Sometimes the work is no longer proving that you deserve a new life. Sometimes the work becomes improving the clarity with which you meet it. And this brings us to the question that has been sitting underneath everything. Why can you understand the pattern, agree with every word, and still wake up tomorrow with the same fog? Why does insight sometimes remain insight instead of becoming movement? The missing piece is simple. Understanding changes what you know, but it does not automatically change the condition from which you try to use what you know. So, here is the plain truth. You may not be behind in the way you think. You may be undercounting structural wins and overcounting temporary feelings. Your mood is real, but it is not the whole measurement. Your recent choices matter. Your repeated actions matter. Your ability to refuse an old pattern matters. There are 3 questions that make this concrete. What no longer controls me? What decision can I make now that I could not make before? What part of my daily state still needs support? Those questions separate progress from fantasy. They also separate self-respect from self-deception. The first question shows what has lost authority over you. The second shows what capacity you have built. The third shows where the work is not finished yet. That is important, because growth does not require pretending every problem has disappeared. It requires knowing which problem you are actually solving, and who are you inside that process. You are not someone waiting to become chosen. You are the returning self, the person learning to recognize what has already changed and take responsibility for what still needs attention. You do not need to worship the old struggle just because it trained you. The old you needed proof before moving. The person you are becoming learns to move from evidence, clarity, and choice. And once you see the difference between insight and the condition needed to use insight well, a new question opens. Can that condition itself be supported deliberately? That is where the research I mentioned earlier becomes relevant. Do you remember the question I asked you to hold earlier? What if the part of you that cannot see the win clearly is not the same part of you that created it? This is where that question becomes practical. There is research behind the idea that different regions of the brain contribute different strengths to the way we process information. Dr. Roger Sperry received the Nobel Prize in 1981 for his work on split brain research. His work helped deepen scientific understanding of how the 2 hemispheres can specialize, communicate, and contribute to human cognition. That research does not prove that any single product can guarantee transformation, but it does give us a useful frame. Clarity depends on how well attention, perception, memory, and decision-making work together. And when people feel mentally scattered, they often experience the exact opposite. They know what matters, but they struggle to hold it long enough to act. A woman from California described that kind of experience before using the resource I am about to mention. She said life felt as if it was happening to her, while her mind stayed foggy and disconnected. According to the story shared by the creators, after using the program for several days, she reported feeling clearer, calmer, and more present in her marriage. A man from Texas described something similar. He carried work, family, and daily responsibility while feeling mentally drained and unfocused. According to the material provided by the team, he later reported sharper decision-making and a stronger sense of mental clarity after adding the program to his routine. The team calls the program the Genius Switch. It is a digital auditory sequence designed to be used for 8 minutes a day with headphones. The creators describe it as neural sync technology built around the idea of supporting hemisphere synchronization and whole brain cooperation. It is important to understand what that claim does and does not mean. This is not a magic button. It does not make decisions for you. It does not guarantee money, success, healing, or a certain future. It is presented as a simple daily tool for people who want to support clearer mental engagement while they continue doing the work their life still requires. The product materials also position it differently from generic relaxation tracks. The focus is not simply on creating a mood. The focus is on a targeted listening sequence that the creators say was designed around their neural synchronization approach. This is not for everyone. It is for the chosen one, who recognizes that insight alone is not always enough. You may know what matters and still want support becoming more focused when it is time to act. You may have changed your standards, your boundaries, and your decisions while still wanting your mental state to become more consistent. According to the current offer described in the product materials, the regular price is $49, with a page offer of $39. The package also includes 4 bonuses: a guided visualization, a grocery shopping guide, a classic manifestation book, and a 5 habits infographic. The offer also describes lifetime access and a money-back guarantee. Prices and availability can change, so read the current page carefully before deciding. A clear decision is better than a pressured one. The real cost of waiting is not that some magical destiny disappears tomorrow. The cost is simpler. If you already know that clarity is one area you want to support, another month of avoiding the issue can become another month of repeating the same friction. If you want to examine the genius switch for yourself, the official resource is linked in the description and the pinned comment. Read the details. Look at what the creators say. Look at the guarantee. Decide from clarity, not pressure. And remember this: a tool does not replace faith. A tool does not replace discipline. A tool does not replace the courage required to make the next decision. It can only support the condition from which you meet that decision. The deeper work still belongs to you. Now bring this back to your life, not to the product, not to a promise, to the evidence you can actually collect in the next 24 hours. Chosen one. Transformation becomes easier to trust when you stop asking your feelings to remember everything and start giving your mind something concrete to measure. Use a simple 3-question audit tonight. First, what did I refuse today that the old version of me would have accepted? Maybe it was disrespect. Maybe it was distraction. Maybe it was the urge to explain yourself to someone who had already decided not to listen. Write one answer. Second, what did I do today without needing certainty first? Maybe you sent the application. Maybe you finished the task. Maybe you rested without asking anyone for permission. Maybe you made a decision before fear could hold another meeting in your head. Write one answer. Third, where did fog, fear, or old conditioning still control the decision? This question matters because real growth is not pretending the old patterns vanished. It is seeing them sooner. Write one answer here too. 3 answers. That is your 24-hour win audit. If you do this honestly, you begin building a record your mood cannot rewrite. On a hard day, the old identity may say, "You are back at the beginning." Your record says otherwise. It shows what you refused, what you chose, and where your attention still needs support. Now close your eyes for a moment if it is safe to do so. Picture yourself 1 year ago. Do not look at clothes, money, status, or what was happening around you. Watch how that version of you responds to one difficult situation. Now, picture yourself today in the same situation. Notice the pause before the reaction. Notice what you no longer chase. Notice where you are more honest. You do not need to make yourself look perfect. You only need to see the difference. Take one slow breath, let your shoulders soften, place a hand over your chest, and say this quietly inside yourself: I have evidence. Not proof that every outcome is guaranteed. Evidence that you are not responding to life exactly as you once did. That distinction is enough to change the next decision. Imagine an ordinary morning 6 months from now. Nothing cinematic happens. You wake up, make one clear choice, and begin the most important task before distraction enters the room. Later, someone asks for access you no longer give automatically. You answer without over-explaining. An opportunity appears, and instead of grabbing it from desperation, you examine whether it fits. You notice that clarity has become less dramatic and more normal. That is the future worth building. Not a life without uncertainty. A life where uncertainty no longer owns every decision. Not a life where fear never speaks. A life where fear does not get the final vote. And for the chosen one who felt something stir when the clarity resource was mentioned earlier, the official information remains in the description and the pinned comment. You can examine it there. No pressure. The rest of this message belongs to what you have already proven through your own choices. Before we close, there is one final way to know whether the win is real. It has nothing to do with what you gained. It has everything to do with the person who was able to make the decision. The final proof is not what arrived. It is who made the decision. Chosen one, you spent so long looking for evidence that life had changed that you almost missed the first evidence. You had changed. That is what the victory blind spot was hiding. You were counting only what could be displayed while ignoring what had become stronger underneath. The boundary counted. The pause counted. The moment you did not return counted. The decision nobody saw counted. Then came the success lag. You changed the input before the visible result had time to catch up. That gap tempted you to doubt everything. But old evidence does not automatically mean the new cause is failing. It may simply mean consequence takes longer than decision. And then we found the old receiver, the part of you that can enter a new situation while still processing it through old habits of attention. That does not make you broken. It gives you something specific to work with. Evidence, clarity, deliberate action. So here is the truth I want you to leave with. You do not have to erase what you survived. You do not have to pretend the past did not shape you. But you also do not have to keep using an old identity as the measuring tool for a new life. You can honor the person who survived without asking that person to lead every future decision. You can thank the old reflex for protecting you once, then choose differently now. You can notice fear without handing it authority. Say this inside yourself if it feels true. I do not erase what I have survived. I do not minimize what I have changed. I do not measure a new life with an old identity. Let those words land without forcing emotion. Your win counts even when it is quiet. Your win counts when nobody knows what it cost. Your win counts when the result is still forming. Your win counts when the evidence is a boundary, a clearer decision, or one old doorway you finally refuse to reopen. And this is the part you were underestimating. The massive win was never only about what you could receive. It was about becoming someone who could meet what comes next without abandoning themselves in the process. You are not at the beginning in the same way anymore. You have evidence now. You have language for the lag. You know the difference between a feeling and a measurement. You know where clarity still needs support. And you know that the next decision still belongs to you. If this message helped you recognize what you have been minimizing, write, "My win counts." Let that be your final marker, not as a prediction, not as a performance, as a statement of evidence. You were looking for proof that life had changed. The first proof was that you had. Carry that quietly. Let the next choice confirm it.